How are you doing?
Hey, GM. I'm great, thanks. How about yourself?
All good. I just had a walk prior to the call to just to get some activity in my body, and I immediately feel refreshed.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, I've been running around like crazy here because I'm moving this weekend, so I'm getting everything ready. And yeah, I feel you.
Great, great. So if we could all just first repost the room so more people can see it,
I think I
I will do. I will
just
do the
shared.
same. I
Let
will
me see.
also pin up something. Just a second. Give me one sec. Artist spotlight. Okay, I'm gonna pin this up.
I'm not able to see if it's been shared to my profile because now if I refresh, I actually exit the call.
Aha, okay, so don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. I pinned up your GM post of the minted art. So anyone who is interested in checking in Angie's art on Endemic, tap on this post and you will see it, or just go to her profile and you can see her other art on other marketplaces. Mm, okay. It got a lot of attention, your GM post today.
Yeah, they sometimes do. I wonder how. I think it's the subscription, like the blue chip. I think it does help
Yeah,
to gather
yeah,
people.
yeah. This is X changed the algorithm when shortly after when Elon Musk took over, and all subscribed the users get more attention, so much more attention.
Yeah, I'm somewhat split on that because honestly, there have been really, really good days when it comes to the algorithm. And in spite of having the full premium subscription, like there have been terrible days. So,
Yeah, and they're pushing towards replies. For example, boost you the most when you reply to other people posts.
yeah,
So
the
that's
relevance, etc. I kind of saw that indeed in the information they now have available regarding how they pay people.
yeah. I mean, also if you want to be paid by the platform, you need to have a lot of impressions, and the best way to get them is actually through the replies.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Much so,
yeah.
yeah.
So, anyways, this is a recorded space, so anyone who will not be here will be able to watch it, or actually to hear it later. So, maybe you can shortly introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself and art.
Yeah, of course. So, my name is Angie. I'm a 42 years old artist. I initially studied graphic design. The reason behind it is that graphic design, in my mind, when I was much younger, and to a certain degree, it's like yeah, being practical in a way with art and helping people creating logos and things like that. So um, yeah, when I was much younger and I told my parents I wanted to be an artist, you can imagine the looks on their faces. So I think, it was something that was important for me to find a way to get that bridge and, yeah, still, have at least a diploma in something I really liked and wanted to consider. And in a way, I'm quite grateful for the path I've had because it's taught me so much more. And today I actually do my craft, my illustration craft, based around graphic design principles because I think they're powerful and that no matter what you do, they stay very, very relevant. So those principles are things like high contrast, less is more. So how can you simplify something to give it more depth, more meaning, more power? Imply something that is not there, play on a negative space, those kind of things. I find them really interesting. And I feel that when you start digging around that and going in depth with it, that's when you can really create amazing things.
Yeah,
So,
I fully. Mm. Okay, go on.
what I wanted to say was, yeah, this background has had a big impact on me on how I create. Now, of course, it doesn't solely define me. It's yeah, I think as an artist, we're all sums of every occurrence, every experience we've had in our lives. So yeah, presenting myself, I think, can be a bit complex, but in the big lines, that's who I am. I try to stick to something that's very stylized, that may not, well, yeah, it does reflect reality, but it's not drawn in the most realistic way, even though what I create can be very detailed.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work, and I'm really always and you told me how much time it takes to create something like that, and I was blown away by that. To be honest,
Sorry, I have a small cold.
no, it's no problem. And do you want to share here with people? How did you get into NFTs? What was the trigger? What was the first sight of the NFTs for you?
Um, Around the COVID time, I started being more present online, just occupying my days
Yeah.
with creation, with creating. And yeah, after a while posting my things here on Twitter, I started getting followers, attracting new communities around me. Back then, I was also more focused on the design part and especially code. So I had lots of people coding around me here on X. And I started talking with people, and people were saying, "Yeah, if your thing was an NFT, I would most definitely buy it." And I was like, "Huh? What the
Hmm.
heck is that?"
We
And
need we need we need that narrative back.
yeah, that was in 2020, at the end of 2020, and
Mm.
yeah, I didn't know back then what NFTs were, so I was like, "Yeah, what the heck is that?" And the person more or less explained. But back then I was in a very chaotic personal situation because I was in a breakup. I needed to sort out my move and bouncing back and everything else. So it stayed in the back of my mind somewhere, but I had to focus on other things. And a couple of months later, in 2021, in February, while I had a little more time on my hand, I started focusing on what NFTs were and what crypto was about. Because I mean, back then, there weren't all that many platforms around. And yeah, I really, really had to learn everything there was about crypto because I knew next to nothing about it. So it didn't really make things practical. But I suppose being here every day and just interacting with people, then little by little you build the knowledge, you start to know the community, and sort of, one thing led to the other.
Yeah, yeah, I see. So, and is it okay? So that was back in 2022, right?
In 2021.
2021, the best of times. Okay. I published I published my book NFT School for Artists like exactly when the bull run NFTs ended.
Really?
Yeah. So I am in a long NFT bear run, but I made it to the other end because mostly because of the people. And so my next question to you is how important is the community in this NFT Web3 space?
I think it's paramount. When I first arrived, I mean, I think it's a very special time because I'm not sure people realize that what is happening here is unique. I mean, to my knowledge, never before had I seen so many other artists online, because there comes a point, I think, when you create where you do your things, and to a certain degree, it may kind of make you feel a little lonely. You don't really know there are others of you, so to speak, out there. And I think this was the nicest discovery, is that you feel a little less lonely as an artist. You realize there are lots of other people around you who create and who have the same reasons than you do, pushing them to do so. So I think that was probably the strongest and the most beautiful discovery about finding my community, so to speak, and finding like-minded people. Because yeah, it's been quite the revelation finding other artists, being able to talk with them, to get their ideas, to get their opinions, their views, and wow, I mean, I was just blown away, and I still am, because yeah, it's a very unique setting. Back in 2021, all of us were home, we didn't really have much of a choice,
Mm.
and yeah, sort of one
Yeah,
thing
I
to the next thing.
Yeah, COVID time did start the bull run. We can also say that, and the community part. I've been always a big advocate for the community because I think if you have a strong community, you can survive even the toughest of the bear markets. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily means that all of your community is collectors, right? And that is not what you need even, but you just need people that will be here and stand by you and your art in the toughest of times, and share it with other people who can eventually be your collectors, right? I just want to say to people here on the space, hi Manik, hi MM, hi Danny, hi Cryptic, hi James. If you could just repost the room, it would mean a lot to us. And if you have a question for Angie, you can drop it in the comments. I would appreciate that. And yeah, and check out the pin post. That's Angie's art on endemic. So um, so would you say that like you have your own community here on Web3, or since you are a physical also artist, your community is all over the place?
I think my community, sorry, I have a little cold. I would say my community is mostly here online, because the relationship you have with the art and with the people in real life is not particularly the same than that we have here in the NFT space. I mean, of course it's here, but it's very different. I'm not sure the normies, so to speak, understand yeah, some of the things, the jokes and so on we have in the NFT community. I mean, it's those are different things. I would say, for example, I have a more down to earth relationship with the people who promote my work to potential clients, and it's not going to be the same, as what goes on here with my NFT friends. And in a way, I'm grateful, because I've learned a lot from yeah, being around here in this space and growing as an NFT artist before I could actually move up the ladder and do other things in real life. Meaningly, since I became an NFT artist, it's also given me more confidence to actually apply and be work with an agency, which is probably something I would not have considered before, because there comes a point where you feel like an imposter, and I think a lot of artists get that feeling. And there needs to be a point where you draw the line, and you're able to tell yourself, okay, maybe I'm not so much of an amateur. I mean, look how far I've come, everything I've created. And that's sort of where I drew the line, and it kind of helped me bounce back to other things. And working with an agency in real life, I think, is one of those. And yeah, I'm really grateful for all the doors it has opened for me, even if it's indirectly.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. So you said that you are, an NFT artist also. So do you think? I mean, speaking, let's say, speaking off the record, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, what what do you think the future will look like for the NFTs in relates to art? I mean, I think about it all day, and I don't have the answer right. What's your opinion there?
Oh, I think it's a very complex
Mm.
idea, and I'm not sure one person holds all of the answers when it comes to that. I think it sort of depends where the next bull runs are going to go, because right now what we're more or less seeing is that the big collectors, they tend to want to collect something that's going to give their collection value. So instead of giving more lesser known artists a chance, they're collecting a lot of yeah, really, really famous, notorious people. I would possibly do the same if I had big bags of money. The idea, of course, is always growth behind that and getting some kind of return on investment. But at the same time, if we keep going that way, I fear that this is going to make places like Rodeo and other really, really cheap collection places more and more widespread. Because I think what this is telling me is that there's some kind of like a struggle for the attention, for trying to make sales. I mean, people who are spending hours and hours sometimes on a piece, when I see the price of a 1-1 these days, it's quite scary. I mean, a lot of them are going for peanuts, which is really a shame, because what it means right now is if you're recognized officially by the big collectors, in a way you can dream of living from your art, but if you're not, you're just going to live on scraps, which is horrible. And I've had people reaching in my DMs, in the past, and maybe not even so long ago, because they couldn't pay their rent and they were here as artists, and some of them even tried to do other things. So I'm not sure all of that right now is a very virtuous circle. And what I want to see is some kind of a change, something positive where all of the community can truly benefit, and not always the same people, reaping everything. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jealous or anything. I mean, I have other things I'm working on. It's not just NFTs, but I see that for a lot of people, it creates frustration. Some of them start to even doubt themselves as artists and what they create. And I'm not sure it's always the best, for the mental well-being of people, when you see artists pouring so much hard efforts, into selling, into creating. And then in the end, you don't see much happening, but except the really, really cheap 30 cents pieces going away. I mean, that's heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, we could discuss on this topic like forever, because I'm super super passionate about that. I have a lot of posts about that. I even have a video coming out today about I call it cheap art. And I hate rodeo. Oops, I said it. And I mean, I can pin something up later, but yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to get started talking about that, because I think it's damaging the whole art space, not just the digital one, but also physical. Sacrificing your art just to make a sale. Go get a job and don't sacrifice your art. That's my best advice if you don't have the money. And I mean, it's yeah. I'm not gonna get into it right now. We can Angie, we can do one of my spaces in the upcoming days and talk about that.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not spitting in the soup, because I think in the end, maybe there's a misinterpretation of the community as well. Because initially, I mean, rodeo is supposed to be something fun where you share your works in progress and things like that. And thanks to it, I've been able to collect small experiments of people I truly appreciate and admire in this space. So please don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely not spitting in the soup. But I know for a fact that some artists have really been trying to pay their rent using these kinds of means. And I think it's getting scary sometimes, where we go and where the space sometimes tries to go.
Yeah, but when I talk about this, I mostly talk about one-of-one art, and not sketches and all that. I mean, so that's what I am, angry about. So, but yeah, I mean, so let's get back to my next question, and it is, I mean, related to everything we just spoke about. Social media and the part of social media in selling your art. How important is that, and how much work is there to that, and can you even be a successful artist in this time and age without social media?
I think it's a very complex question, and I think anyone who has been in this space, sorry, since 2021 and even before, can actually tell you how hard it is to be present every single day on social media, how hard it is to always have a screen somewhere near you. And I've personally been to places because of this where I've had migraines, where I've been totally burnt out. So, yeah, rip mental health sometimes. And I think it's the sad part is that sometimes some artists I've been there, so I'm not spitting in the soup always, but I'm just sharing, of course, what I know. I've been to places where I think it sometimes it kind of makes you push too hard because for many of us right now, this congratulation your item sold or received a bit, that simple email is really elusive because I think many of us one artists haven't received one of those in quite a while. And yeah, I've seen people, and I've probably done it myself, being desperate and post about that. And sometimes if you're solely, especially relying on NFTs, it can really create a bundle of frustration. So yeah, I think it's important to step back, but also social media unconsciously makes you compare yourself to other people. And I think for your own well being, it's something quite dangerous. And you need to be able to step back and not have an overdose of social media, because when you get there, it really blurs the limits of your own well being. And there comes a point where instead of comparing yourself to yourself and to your own progress and to everything you're building, you're actually seeing other people making sales and not you. So it kind of gets to you. And I think that's why I'm saying more and more, if you read some of the stuff I post, I know sometimes it may feel a little cryptic, but there's always like a deeper meaning behind it. I've come to actually call social media and everything else behind me the noise. And I think at this point in space and time, I'm just learning to focus on me, to do my work, and to ignore the noise, because it's a question of well-being. And if I pay too much attention to that noise, I'm really going to make things terrible for myself.
Yeah, I mean, we can all agree there is a lot of stuff on social media. The stuff I mean, 80% of it is just, yapping and something that just waste your time. But on the other hand, I mean, I notice it myself. I'm not an artist per se, but I am in the Web3 NFT art business, and I mean, it's just like that. I mean, the more time I spent on X, chatting with people, doing spaces, and all that, the more success I'm gonna have. But that's why I take every like uh, 2 or 3 hours. I get out of the house and take 1 hour walks. Because otherwise I would pop like a popcorn, at some point. So that part is really important to keep your head clear and your mental health well. So I definitely agree there. So I always talk about storytelling part and personal branding for artists. Do you think it's important for the artist to share on social media like some maybe more personal stuff that inspired him or her to do that art and stuff like that, to connect more with the audience? Do you think that's important?
I think it is, very much so. I think it's important up to a certain extent to be able to share what it is you are creating, and the story behind the art. It's definitely part of it all. And I think it also brings coherence in whatever it is you are creating and sharing with the world. Um, Now, I know it's not always easy, because sometimes something comes as a story in your mind, and relating to a deeper narrative, or to the exact place something came from, is sometimes very abstract. I think, for example, of David Lynch, because I'm a big fan of his, and I have to say I've been very sad with his passing away. And in my own little way, the past few days, I've been watching movies of his, and really paying attention to the details, because I know they all have meaning to a certain extent, and it's kind of my way to have a homage for him. But even he was saying regarding his own work that, you have a meaning behind it, and that meaning you can make it obvious to people, but whenever somebody watches your work, you're bound to have their personal interpretation and their own version of the narrative. So isn't it beautiful also to leave the room, and the openness for people to take whatever they like in the art and make it theirs in the end? Because when you really think about it, of course, it has my own personal meaning in my narrative, but to somebody else, it may have another very powerful meaning, and I'm not going to take any of that away from them.
Hmm. I see. I see. So prior to so guys, hi Catalina, thanks for joining DM Designs. How you doing? You can do us a favor and repost the room if you would like, so we can get more people in here. If you have a question for Angie, feel free to post it in the comments. And Catalina, I don't believe we ever met. If you wanna come on stage and say hi and ask Angie a question, feel free to do that. Yeah, Angie. I mean, because I noticed when I work with artists one on one, and trying to help them, you know, sell out eventually, right? I always tell them about storytelling, personal branding, and community building, and I see a lot of struggle and maybe lack of confidence to share their like more personal stuff and stories related to the art or life that get them to doing art on social media. And that's, I see a lot of problems there. I mean, it's probably a matter of lack of confidence, I would say, right?
I would say it's a little bit more complex because, on the other hand, if people push you to have a narrative, maybe you don't want to have a narrative. Maybe also you want to simply create, for the sake of it, because creating is fun and creating is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree, and I know artists who are here in the space just for creating. They when they list something on the marketplace, they list it for the price they feel the most comfortable. They are not in a hurry of any kind to sell. And for those, I would say don't do anything, right? You don't have to do marketing or anything if your goal is not to sell, but just to make your mark in the history, right? But for those who want to live off their art and sell, I think without, you know, storytelling, personal branding, and, you know, more business approach to art, I don't think, you know, you will be able to live off your art, right?
Sorry, I've been a little distracted. Sorry.
No, no, no problem. I said just, I can repeat shortly. I said just that for those who are not interested, you know, in making money from art per se, they're not in the hurry. Let's put it like that. They don't need to do any kind of marketing, right? But for those who want to live off their art, make money with art, they need to take more like a business approach to the art and get all the parts right, like storytelling, personal branding, and community building. What do you think of
it's
that?
it's a lot to handle for one person, because when I talk to people about what I do and how things run for me on a daily basis, I more often than not get the feeling that I'm a Swiss knife, because I maintain my own website, I do my own communication here and there. I'm my own travel agency representing myself mostly abroad when there's an event or whatever. So it feels like I do a lot, and I'm actually happy that I've found an agency in real life that's starting to represent me a little bit more and more in real life. Because, I mean, we spread ourselves so thin as people, and I'm not sure many realize that. When I talk to in real life people who picture us as artists having an ideal life or being in Lala Wonderland, I'm not sure where, a lot of these people don't realize all these necessities and that needs to be done, because money's got to land on the table, we've got to get seen, and our work needs to be constantly promoted, and a lot of that is hard work, and it can get to you, and it's very mentally exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, like you said, it's one person doing a couple of jobs. The first, let's call it a job, quote unquote, is creation of the art, which is the most important, right? And the second part is business part, right? Like marketing and all that stuff. And both jobs are super time consuming. So if you put it all on one person, it can be impossible to do all that, right? And did you mention a travel agency, or I hear that wrong?
No, the travel agency part is more, going to the local NFT events every here and there. Because I
So
mean,
you have your own travel agency for that,
no,
or?
no, no. I mean, I'm my own traveling person. Sorry, maybe I
Ah,
said
okay, okay.
that
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah, I misunderstood. Sorry.
No, no, no. I think we're trying to talk, and explain a lot of concept. I think that people who are not artists or running their own business in some kind of way perhaps don't perceive. And I have to say that in the end, it's really quite a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. I'm really happy to do it, but and some of those facets, like traveling and going to places is also really nice, especially to catch up in real life with the community. But in the end, what I mean to say is when you think about it, it's very demanding.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And do you use any sort of marketing agency to help you with all that?
No, I mean, I've been contacted by some in the past, but a lot of the time when you ask for prices, it's complete madness. And I think at our level, we're not yet anywhere near being able to fully afford the kind of services they offer. And some of them, yeah, they do feel a bit sketchy. So
Mm.
for now, I'm happy doing things my way. And I think until I find people doing it in a way that feels right for me and fully respectful and understanding of what I do, then maybe I might sign with them. But for now, I mean, I haven't met anything that's anywhere near that. So,
Yeah, I mean, me neither. Because I'm not looking for myself. I'm doing a research because I feel like there is a necessity there, right, to help artists to do the marketing part. But I also understand that you can't charge them upfront nothing, right? But maybe some model where you get where the agency gets paid by the work sold. Maybe that's something that could work. I don't know.
the agency that represents me already in real life and that gets me clients,
Hmm.
these people, they take a 35% cut of every contract they sell for me. And when you think about it already, I mean, it's already quite a lot of money.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a lot.
I mean, I
I
understand many of them, they take the risk and they introduce you to people. I mean, yeah, of course I understand, but still, it's really an awful lot of money and it needs to be seen for what it is.
Hmm. I mean, 35%. That's like I mean, I don't know if that's like normal prices in the marketing of the art world, but seems a lot. Yeah, seems a lot. Um, I want to say hi to Catalina. How you doing?
GM, I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, yeah. GM.
GM, hi, lovely Angie. I'm so happy to be on the
So,
stage. Hi, how are you feeling? How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. And how are you? It's really, really good to see you and to hear you.
Oh, thank you. I'm good too. I'm doing exactly what you were explaining earlier, like trying to do 20 different tasks while creating art at the same time. Because, yeah, creating is just one small speck of everything that we need to do in order to actually complete a sale and have some form of success in this space.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, Catalina, you wanna add something?
I do have a question for you, Angie, and I've always been curious about this. I don't know if you discussed it earlier in the space, but uh, all of us who know you, we know that you have a very distinguished style, very distinct, very unique. And it's also very difficult because I've tried it before and I have to admit it's not easy. So I always admire you for the style that you're working on. And my question is, what inspired you to go to vector art? Because this for me is one of the like cell shading vector art. This for me is like one of the most complex style because it looks simplistic, but it's actually very difficult to achieve. And how long does a piece usually takes you to complete from start to finish?
Wow, you've really raised a super interesting question here.
Nice.
And I understand where it comes from and why you were asking it. So, my initial training, as I explained earlier on, and anyone who knows me knows it is so, I'm initially a graphic designer, which means when I was in art school, I've learned all about vectors because it's part of the craft. I think it's even the biggest tool of the craft for a graphic designer. And I think with time, more and more, I've been having fun with Illustrator, but mostly for my own little thing, or for client work here and there. And I think there came a point where when you nerd around with something and you know it so well and you know it inside out, you feel like you want to push it, torture it around, or maybe torture yourself. Is that how to say? And well, anyway, you want to have fun. And the point is you want to explore and you want to, yeah, just push your own limits as well. And I think it's something that came after a while, because for a long time, even though I was working a lot with vector for myself, it never really was, well, yes, it was a little bit for art, but not so much for example, some things I would have completed before I actually switched fully to illustration using vectors. I think there came a point where, pen and paper or oil and a canvas, I think there comes a point when you've experimented with digital art where you're like, how annoying does it get? Because if you make a stain in your painting, it's not like you can Command Z, It's really silly to say, but the digital medium is fantastic because you can be unsatisfied forever. And basically, if you feel like it, keep on editing a piece forever and ever, and be fully unsatisfied until the end of your life, if you so wish. Or eventually tell yourself that this piece looks rather good and maybe it's about time now it had a life of its own.
Beautiful.
If that answers fully the question.
Catalina, does that answer your question?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm just asking myself, why am I so different? Because I'm also coming from the design world, and I focus on Photoshop because at the time, like I'm talking about like 15 years ago, Photoshop, CorelDRAW, although I'm still not a fan of the CorelDRAW, and now I'm trying Illustrator. It's a different breed. It's a different type of nature style that I just can't get used to it. So I'm more of smooth gradients and painterly, like bitmap images. But my next question is, how long does it take you from start to finish, from the concept art, from the inspiration to the full completion of at least one piece? Let's call it one piece. Because I know that you just mentioned you can just infinitely do alterations until you're satisfied or until you're pissed. But let's call a finished piece. And I've seen, especially your cards; they were absolutely beautiful. So let's try one of your those beautiful cards that the tarot cards that I can't read. For the love of me, I can't read tarot. But if we take one of your pieces there, how long did it take you from the concept, the idea, to the sketching, like the initial sketch, rough sketch, and then cleaning up, polishing until the final piece?
I think it honestly depends. One piece is not the other. And I think what's the most time consuming is really when I'm creating something brand new. For instance, the last year that's just gone by, I've been spending a lot of time just drawing for myself, researching graphically, like visually things. And for instance, the one I posted this morning on my Good Morning, like that Renaissance piece, that was also something brand new. So initially, I just come up with like this concept, this idea, and sometimes I do use a little bit of AI just to get experimenting, exploring. What it really helps me with is mostly finding a pose that looks anatomically more or less correct, because we always know it's not fully correct, and you probably need to make corrections to the AI up to a certain extent. But it's more or less finding a pose, like a statue for a person that you like. So you also create someone new. But since I like symmetry a lot anyway, the people that I will draw will always be different no matter what, because no one fully symmetric actually exists in real life, and we all know that. It's mostly exploration. So for example, that Good Morning image I had this morning, this was really something brand new and fresh, and it was the very, very first one of a kind. And I think it's the hardest part. It's when you're making that initial research and you're looking to create and to define a style. Just like when I created the first tarot card, I would say it's always the very first elements of something that will take you the longest. The first, I would say, 4 to 5 pieces in a certain style. The one from this morning, if I really need to think about it, took me, I think, between somewhere from 20 to 40 hours, somewhere in there. It's not really the creation process, as in drawing in itself, that's so much time consuming, but I think it's more the experimentation that goes on next to it, because the way I create is I'm not just going to merely be drawing something or using a model. It's a lot of the experimentation and the creating process is actually itself going to happen digitally, meaning that there comes a point where I have my rough sketch on my canvas and I just want to start playing with it, because in a way that's where most of the shading and the textures and everything in is going to come in. So the process that's the most time consuming is that first trying to find some colors, because I'm really picky on having contrast. I think when you look at a piece, what you want is you want it to be legible right from the start, and you want every element to be able to distinguish itself. So no matter who looks at it, they kind of can get into your feel and into the elements that you've been wanting to represent, and your message needs to be strong. And that's why it's so difficult, because with the textures, you know how I use some patterns here and there to really create a distinctive feel. You're going to start experimenting, seeing how things complement one another. How are you going to make it work for the shading? And then you really start that experiment of colors, of shapes, and of textures. And I think it's really finding the right balance that really take the longest in my case. So yeah, sometimes simple as something may look, I feel like saying most of the time it's deceptively simple, because it's really the tree in a way that's hiding the forest. The initial work that went into creating the first few pieces of a series is everything. And you're, of course, always going to be spending so much more time until you've taught yourself this new process you've invented, and until you're able to create something where whichever new piece you want to integrate to this collection, you've learned that graphic style you've created for yourself so well, you've understood it, because it's always about creating principles. It's like when you create something, you're creating your own universe, with the rules that make this universe real. And what is real as an illustration in my universe requires defining and crafting all that universe. And once it's done, then of course everything makes sense, because it all comes together. But it's really visually building all of that that's really intense as a process.
Whoa, thanks for sharing it, Catalina. Does that
That's
answer the question?
Oh, yes, that's absolutely beautiful, because it only proves how much time you spend to craft your skills and to create your own mastery in what you're doing. And one of the basic principles that I learned in design, which does apply in art as well, but I found it later, is the fact that the best design is the one design that it looks so simplistic, but at the same time, you cannot remove anything. It's so perfect that you can add stuff and make it more congested, but this perfection is in the shape or the final piece, that you cannot remove anything because it's going to break down. That's the perfect design, when it has the foundation, it has all the important pieces, but in order to find them, to combine them, and especially with color theory, that is affecting our perception a lot. Angie knows that, and this is why she's so picky and into choosing the correct color palette, because every single shade, every single color is affecting us psychologically, and it can tell a story. So kudos for you for crafting and shaping your art and such a perfection that when I look at your piece, I know that this is the best version that it can come out of all of the other tries, like alterations, errors, and trials that you've been through. So I'm such a huge fan. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I mean, they really get straight to my heart. Honestly, it's, yeah, I never do that to expect that. So receiving so much love is just something incredible. And I want to thank you, Catalina, and all the people who are always there supporting me. I also see Ivok there, my friend. Thank you for being there. And yeah, for all the kind people. It's, there came a point where I was only creating mostly for myself, and it's still kind of new in a way. It's rather recent that I share so much with everybody. And it's quite the step, from drawing for yourself and just keeping your things private, or from no one seeing you on Instagram, to all of a sudden the world turning and looking at you, or even brands starting to work with you. So it's very humbling, and I deeply want to thank everyone, because it's really touching me deep inside, and I never expected that. So thank you so much.
We're so grateful to have you here, Angie, and everyone in the audience. Thank you, Catalina. Those were great questions. If you haven't, please repost the room so we can get this in front of more people, because I think it's really important for the artists, for the collectors, and for everyone generally in the space. Angie, I have another question that is kind of related to what we spoke, and a lot of artists struggle with that. So how do you determine the price of the artwork, right? Do you have like a kind of some parameters that you look into, or you're just like, okay, I feel like this is the price of this, I don't know.
There was a time, I think it was pretty tough to actually adjust the price of something. But then, in a way, it's, I feel like saying that putting a price label on something is really abstract, don't you think?
Mm, I see, yeah.
And the thinking behind this is, it really, I'm going to work around this another way. I think it's important to have an idea of your own personal worth as an artist. And I think what saddens me the most is when I browse my timeline to say good morning to people. It's especially more true in the morning these days, because I'm really working on something big at the moment, and I have way less time to just chillax online and go around to say hello to people. And a thing that always breaks my heart is when I see some really hard work, some fantastic creation, and I see people putting the most ridiculous price label on that, because not that it's either almost free. I mean, that's another strategy if people want to sell on Rodeo, or other places. So I'm really going to put that aside, this discussion. I'm more thinking here in pure terms of strategy concerning your pricing. I mean, when I've spent over 20 hours on a piece, it goes without saying that I'm never going to sell it under a certain price, because it's also a form of respect, not just for myself or for what I've done before, but also the long hours I've actually sacrificed, learning in the corner of my room when everyone was out in the summers having fun together outside. I mean, I've been doing over 20 years of this before it served me in a way that's actually what it is today. And there's more to it. There's also the times where life didn't work out, and in spite of not making a sale, you keep pushing through, and you keep creating, and you keep having the faith. And instead of just letting your arms down and telling yourself that it's terrible, bloody blah, you actually keep pushing, and you tell yourself that instead of giving up, you're actually going to study, to work harder, and to become even better at what you do. And I think when you stand from that point of view, there comes a point where you don't want to sell yourself for peanuts. So, of course, right now, some of my work, if you look at the price tag on it, it may look quite expensive. But it's not like I improvised myself an artist. I've been doing what I do for quite a while, and there's been a lot of learning behind it. I'm not just selling you a cat in a bag. And if you want to, I can share my screen with you and show you my process, and take you along the rabbit hole and show you everything there is to know about the art. I mean, I'm an open book when it comes to that.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, Angie. So much emotion here. I love it, the way you talk, the way you explain things, and I 100, 1000% agree with you on this topic, because there's so many, like you said, there's so many like parameters that you can include when you decide on the pricing, right? And Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have nothing to add, to be honest. You said it all. You said it all.
How?
Yeah, yeah. And I was gonna ask you, do you ever like sell physical art attached to the NFT? Do you ever do that?
Sometimes when a collector really likes a piece, and wants to have a physical artwork printed, there were times in the past where I've actually ordered physical pieces for collectors. Yes.
Mm.
Um, Now these days, I've considered it. Let's put it that way, but I'm not sure yet. I need to explore some things because if I would make a physical piece, it's not like I would paint it or anything. I mean, I'm also way too busy to create something like that. Um, it's actually funny because this weekend I saw a very, very old friend of mine that still lives in Liège, in Belgium. And I was talking with him, and it happens to be that that person is my very, very first physical collector. And there are very, very few pieces of paintings that are out there that I've actually hand painted and signed. And he owns the very, very first one that was purchased of me. And I was actually thinking of offering him a print of my digital art to thank him for being my first collector.
Yeah, that seems amazing. I mean, I would be amazed by that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to explore things, and I know there's currently a chip that's being developed by Transient Labs, and I really want to eventually look into this and give it a shot because I think the technology behind it, if it's allowing it, I mean, why not? And it can be something quite fun. But at the moment, something is digital art. Sorry, unless you painted it yourself, does it really make sense to like print a copy and out of the blue to decide that this copy is the master copy?
Hmm.
Isn't that all in itself somehow an aberration?
Yeah, yeah, I see. I see because I was talking to an artist and she said like that she saw some artists doing they sell NFT, right? And whoever buys it gets a physical copy, but not like original, right? Because it's digital art, but it
Uh-huh.
gets a physical copy through the site. It's called Printerium, right? Something like that. Have
Okay.
you heard of it? I
Not at
mean,
all. No.
yeah, it's Printerium where you can where artists and anybody who is creative or a designer or whatever can input to write his design or her design, and it can be printed on canvas or on T-shirt, whatever. So it's something like that. But I mean, like you said, it's very hard to manage all of that, right? I mean, yeah, I don't know, but it's an idea. Yeah. So, have you ever had problems with like plagiarism, scams, and stuff like that?
Um, I have to say that if I compare some trends to what went on a couple of years ago, a lot of that has toned down. Um, really plagiarism here on X, and but if you type Petit Angèle like my nick, you will still find a lot of impersonators.
Hmm.
So I'm really asking myself up to what point this is actually changed. For the rest, I try to keep an eye, and I think, yeah, it's rather quiet. And I think it's nice also having an agency work with you because for some of these things, they can also be on the lookout for you. The thing is, I believe it's important as an artist when you see plagiarism or something like that happening that you need to really have a look at the piece to see if it's not your interpretation that someone is plagiarizing you, because my mental thinking here is at what point does somebody's experience begin and where does my ID stop and plagiarism begin. So it's very delicate to think about. I mean, artists all inspire one another in one kind of way, so this makes it difficult. But I mean, simple and plain plagiarism, I'm not really sure I've really dealt with that. Maybe people trying to steal my art, and then usually I would take action so fast that it maybe happened once or twice and never after. I mean, until now, I touch monkey.
Hmm. I see. I see. Okay. Okay. And for like, I have two last questions for you in one question.
Sure.
So, who inspires you, and what is your best advice for young artists who are coming into this space?
Oh, what inspires me? Who inspires me? I think that everyone and no one inspires me at the same time, because there's always this factor that whatever inspires you, you're just putting it out through the filters of your own persona. I think that's for one. And I think everything is a source of inspiration at the same time. I think I'm someone, I always pay a lot of attention to the details when I walk around, when I go to places. And I think it's just about being present and really enjoying everything that's around you, and just the nature or whatever else. And I think if you're always open minded, then you tend to absorb a lot of things, like a sponge. And you then develop this incredible inner library of references of all kinds. And I think that library is just the wonderful inspiration that you can use daily. And that can be other artists, of course. I mean, we're all to a certain degree inspired by other people. I would have to say that in my case, I really, really like Mark Ryden, especially some of his latest pieces, the Meat Show, that kind of stuff. It's just his little characters, they have something so witty in a way about them. And there came a point where I was more paper and pen, when there was really a big influence of his on what I did. Sorry. But then I think my biggest inspiration today would probably have to be Malika Favre, because I love the minimalism she's able to convey in her work, and the synthesis. I think she's revolutionized the way most vector artists create, because she's created such a strong language and she really made it her own. And she even herself has her own references. I follow her quite closely on Instagram. And I mean, here and there, she always shares works from other people from the past, that have been a great source of inspiration. So as you can see, there's like an interconnectedness, I would say, even among artists. But I would say the most important library is that of your life and of your experiences. And it's probably, if you accumulate well and if you're able to really sort all of these experiences out, I think it's the richest library you could ever wish for, to just dive in and get some ideas. Because I think, yeah, as creatives, most of us, when we create something, it's possibly more of an emotion or a feeling we initially want to convey, and not necessarily so much of something physical that we want to share. I think that the visual part is more something that's an indication, that's like a support for the emotion you try to create, because emotions are so abstract, and it's something that's really, really difficult to be able to share as such with other people. So yeah, it's very vague, but I mean, everything and everyone is an inspiration, and more than anything else, and above all, everyday life.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And for everyone who joined late, this is a recorded space, so you can listen to it again. A lot of good information for the artists on the creative process, on social media, on marketing, on the community part. So if you are interested in any of that, I would suggest you to go through it again. Cryptic, for everyone, information here. Our TG will be by the end of the month or beginning of February, the latest. And yeah, Angie, I mean, what can I say? I had really fun the past hour.
I always have fun when we're in a space, and we've been in a few these past weeks, huh?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
always a lot of fun. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I really want also to thank everybody who came here and who shared the time with us, Catalina, for her beautiful questions. Friends like Ivok who are here out of the blue. I mean, thank you, friends. And
Thank
of course,
you.
everybody else. And I look forward to connecting with more people.
Yeah, we're gonna do more of these spaces. Follow my account, follow Angie account, follow Endemi account, follow everyone in the space. That way we grow the community. Happy Wednesday, and see you all some other time. Bye bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.